looks better. Let me see if I can hear myself at all. Well, actually, there's nothing I can do about it, strictly because I don't have my mic. So hopefully the audio isn't terrible. I'll kind of find out as people hop in. But I do need to. Hello. Yeah, everything's really low. Well, I guess the further I am from the phone. But at least you can hear me some. So that's what we're going to deal with. Alright, we're picking up where we left off. We have the router table finished up. And yesterday we finished running all of our stick joints on the ends. These are a bunch of test pieces. And then we did a couple passes just now with the other profile so they can make the style and rails for our doors. This was the first test. This one was the second one. And what we wanted is for that joint there to end up flush. If we look at this test cut, it's slightly proud here. Again, the camera probably doesn't show it, but slightly proud. So we got it set up on the router just fine now. So now we just need to take passes and run the rest of these pieces through. I did all the rails for one door. And that's the joint that we're trying to get. Oh, come this way. So we're about to run all the rail pieces and stack them on my bench in the back. And then we'll delve into doing all the styles. This set is done. I have all 10 doors laid out here on my bench. Everything's about to get ran through the router. And what I'll probably do is currently I tried to do this by taking out the full depth of pass all at once. I'm probably going to bring the fence forward just a little bit so I take a little bit less of a pass and do this in 2 passes. So I'll probably run all these pieces through twice. So let's slide the fence just a little further forward. And then we'll slide it back. And then each one of these stacks are a complete door. We have all the mid and top rails, well, all the mid rails, and then we have a wider bottom rail. I have quite a few pieces to run through the router. So let's get it started. at is routing all of our profiles on all the rails. These are all the horizontal members of the door. Yesterday we routed all the stick joints, but now by running through the router table going this way, we're going to be completing up the profile. And this is the completed profile. I ran these in one single pass, and what I decided was it'll be a lot better is I moved the fence forward. So I'm doing it in 2 passes. See if you guys can see the difference in profile. If the glare will go away. Yeah, one profile is deeper and actually has the full OG on it. If it will focus. Yeah, one has that full profile on it. The other one right now currently just has the rounded edge. Again, because the fence isn't slid all the way forward, so we're going to do it in 2 passes. I do need to be cautious because each one of these doors, they have a top rail and then 4 middle rails and a bottom rail. The top rail, all the mid rails will get a groove on both sides. The top rail only gets one on the bottom. So I need to make sure that I don't route all of them through on both sides. So I need to pay attention to that. Oh, and also how this is going to work as far as the joinery. Let's just imagine this is the top of the door, or this was the side. You would get a piece that comes in and then slots in like so. And then again, I'll have my stiles for the longer pieces. Those haven't been ran yet, but you'll have a full, 8-foot door, 7-foot door, and then your rails will connect in like so. And then you'll have your panels in between there, and that will make up the entire door. They'll get glued up once I have all these pieces cut, and then I can go into sanding them. I do need to route in all the mortises. These doors are going to have old school mortise locks, so I do need to route those in once all the doors are glued up. So the goal for the day is to get this profile ran on all of my rails, and if I'm lucky, maybe some of my stiles. That's the game plan. It shouldn't be too much though, because the router table isn't too hard to run. I actually love it. The fence I just built the other day. I do want to redo my dust collection on the backside, but having the feather boards and a perfectly straight and flat fence that's longer than my old fence, it's really nice. And it can stay permanently on top of my table saw, so I'm always ready to route and go. And the lift has been pretty awesome because you can lock the depth adjustment, and then you have all your fine tuning and everything else all from above the table versus having to drop the router out and do stuff like I used to. But yeah, so that's what we're tackling. We're going to start running the router table and see how quickly we can knock all this out. And again, if we're lucky, we'll delve into doing actual styles afterwards, which is pretty much, I can show you guys that real quick. This whole stack behind the camera. That's all the style material. Everything on my bench is all the horizontal rail material. One door is a small closet, so that's why those are so short. Most of these are 30 inches, but I actually went through the house and measured each one of the openings, height and width, and checked to see if they were level and whatnot. So I have all of them cut to the sizes I need. The last thing we gotta do now, again, is just route in. Where's one? This profile here, and again, we're gonna do it in 2 passes. First pass is gonna get us about halfway there, but essentially, I probably can go full passes. I didn't really notice much of a difference. Would save me some time. I think with the feather boards, we might be fine to go full passes. So that's probably what we're gonna do just to make it go a little bit faster. So I'm not running all, what is that, 6 pieces times 10, 60 pieces twice. That'd be 120 times through the router. So we're actually gonna go full depth and see if we have any issues. I do have extra rail material. I do have some stuff back there, so if I do fuck up one of these, I can always remake. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 extras. So if I fuck up one of these, I'm fine. But unfortunately, on the stiles, the longer pieces for the doors, I have exactly what I need for that. I have 20. I have 10 doors. So hopefully I don't fuck up any of those. So those I might do in 2 passes just for safety. But I will also hate to have to redo any of this process. Milling those down, ripping them down, doing the end cuts. So I don't want to fuck up these either. But hopefully we can speed this up by again doing this all at one time. And whenever you're doing this router bit, it has a bearing on the inside of the bit. Slide that back. Can you guys see that? Gotta move out the way. It's part of a 3-piece set from Freud. The first bit does the end cuts. If I can show. First bit fits in there and follows that profile to give you the cope. The other bit that's in there now does this profile here. And again, this door or this bit set is actually meant for doors that are up to, I think, 1 3/4 down to 1 3/8. So essentially you have to disassemble the bit. These bearings here were originally spaced in the middle, but you just swap them out, put them on top for the smaller doors. And this bit set does come with a raised panel bit, which is massive. I haven't used this yet. These are all going to be flat panel doors, so I don't get to use this on this project. But after all these are routed, I can do some test fits, I can get measurements, and then I need to glue up and make all the panels, which again, 10 doors, 5 panels each. I need to make 50 panels. So that's the next step after I get everything routed. But to set up the bit, again, just like the other one, there's a bearing right here in the middle. You bring your ruler or your straight edge right up against the bearing. And then you just bring your fence right up to meet your straight edge and make sure you're flush with that bearing. That's one cool thing about router fences. I can also tilt this piece anyway, as long as it's flush with the bearing. We're going to go right here. I'm going to lock one side down. And then I'm going to come back over to this side. And again, I still can pivot it, so I'm going to make sure we're flush to the bearing and the fence. It's nice and snug where I want it. I didn't change the depth adjustment, so we're still good there. So let's get rocking and rolling. Oh, and these feather boards, they serve several purposes. One of them is when you push a board in, it's hard to pull it back out, so you don't have to worry about kickback, and they put downward pressure, so I don't have to press as hard down onto the router table and the board. I kind of just got to push it. So one of the issues with running at full depth is that you can get chatter over your board being balanced. But by having feather boards, kind of eliminates that. I do need to route in a groove right here, so I can add feather boards along the face to push it that way. But again, for right now, 2 on top of the fence will make this process plenty easy. Let's see. Hey, how you doing? Howdy. And yes, we're currently routing the profiles to finish up the doors. There we go. I have all the rails cut, so yeah, the goal now is just to route all the, I guess, coats on all the rail pieces, and then we're going to rip down all the stiles and do the exact same thing to those. Start stacking these on the other table. Oh yeah, definitely. These are gonna be a fun project. Again, never built this many doors before, but I think it's a great experience. Definitely learning a lot. One with scheduling, gotta be better with that. All right, next door. And yeah, the process is pretty much rinse and repeat this though. It's not really much else to it. We're gonna run all these pieces, and then we're gonna start ripping again the styles, and then run those through the same process. And then we'll have the frame of the door. And maybe tonight, probably not though. I have a lot of panels back there that needs to get milled and glued up. So I'm really not, looking forward to getting back on the jointer and planer. But once I kind of get these tests fit together, I can see what size each one of the panels actually need to be, and I can actually, get into milling those. And before I get too far, let me make sure that this isn't full. And it is. Fuck. I don't check this often enough. I really can't wait until this is hooked up to my larger dust collector and that is my dust separator underneath my bench. Because I have to dump this bucket so often. Let me go clean this up. Yeah, I really can't wait to get this big dust collector over here, strictly because this is running off of a 2-inch port. So I love to want to be able to have a dust box underneath the router because again, this is only pulling air back that way, but having something pulling air from this gap right here around the bit catches all the sawdust that falls down through there. And when I have a 4-inch hose coming from my main dust collector, I can split that to the fence and to underneath. And probably drill an additional hole over here, which works out really well whenever you're running like dado pits. And yes, yeah, crate. Yeah, because essentially what most people do, again, the bigger dust hose that goes to my bigger tools, typically people build a box around the actual router itself that's underneath here. And then they just run a dust hose to that box. To actually build this whole thing out with the cabinet and drawers and stuff. But until I actually run my dust hose over here, I need my vacuum and stuff like that to be able to fit underneath. But once I actually get the proper dust collection ran here, all this is going to go away, and I'm going to have drawers and the dust box for the router. And I need to finish closing in the table saw because I want to actually get this fully enclosed so I can actually put a big 4-inch dust port down at the bottom versus just a 2-inch port that's in the back. Definitely trying to upgrade dust collection because if you guys can't tell, projects like this leave sawdust all over my floor. So I would definitely love a way to. I actually have to clean up because I have somebody coming over tomorrow. So I have a bunch of work to do in here after I finish this. All right, though. Let me hook up the dust collection back up. And then. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, sawdust is, I guess, a kind of a fire hazard if, again, yeah, I guess because it is sawdust on the floor. Yes, you don't want to leave it down there. And ideally, again, most of it gets sucked up by the vacuum, but by having more than one port being the vacuum here, and again, for certain bits, the chips typically get flung this way. So having another dust port right here to collect those chips kind of is the best solution you can have for the router table, but with every tool inside the shop, it's kind of the best way to get dust collection to where the bit is or the blade etc. And not all tools have the best dust collection. Table saws are actually notorious for being pretty bad. Router tables, you can collect them between the fence and a dust box. Like the miter saw, there's not really much you can do to collect all the sawdust that produces because of how the blade and everything else operates. But again, it's a never-ending battle. Lucky friend. Yeah, it's a never-ending battle. Trying to keep the dust from going everywhere. And I'm just getting more and more diligent about it because I hate having to sweep afterwards. Well, trying to be more diligent. And again, this setup is better than my previous router setup because at least it's falling down underneath the cabinet versus directly down on the floor that I need to sweep up later. Not better, but it just keeps the aisle a lot cleaner. But these bits create a lot of sawdust, so. But actually, show you guys something fun. I love the dust collection in the fence because you turn the camera. Oh, that bucket's full again though. That actually didn't take long at all. Yeah, a 5-gallon bucket is quite big enough for a dust collection. Especially not for a router table. Hopefully I didn't already clog up my filter on my vacuum. I probably should check that while I'm at it. Filter is getting a little clogged, so I probably need to clean that a little too. As far as the canister, it's actually staying fairly clean, but there's a little bit of sawdust down inside of there that's just swirling around the filter. Yeah, again, I'm using directly to my phone as far as the audio. So again, as I walk away from the phone, it'll probably get a little bit worse. But it's all I can do. I have a new mic and it's coming tomorrow. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more doors to route, and then I can start ripping up all this other style material. Ripping up the style material, and then running that through the router too. Let's see. I know the camera probably won't pick it up, but the static electricity from all the sawdust just has pieces of sawdust just shooting out of the bucket. I'd be cool if I can catch that. Probably won't be able to. Can you guys see that? These are actually my Invisalign steel toes. I had a concrete guy tell me that, and I use that forever now. This guy was digging and pouring a foundation in flip flops, and I was like, "You're a cool guy." Well, he wasn't actually digging; he was, foreman. But that lucky son of a bitch. And yeah, static electricity is cool. That's also why you want to make sure you ground your dust collection, because the amount of electricity that can run through your sawdust can cause sparks, and especially if you're gonna be just sucking up anything that may have screws or nails. Oh, flip flops? Yeah, probably not the best thing for my back. No, support. Look at that, they just started jumping. All right, let me go ahead and clean this up so we can continue. Oh, as soon as my hand got close to it, started freaking out. Can you guys see that? You know how much stuff just sticks up to my hand? All right, but yeah, let me clean that out. My solution for all my sawdust inside the shop, it all comes back here to my dust collector. So I typically just grab my hose and suck up whatever. If I wasn't scared of sucking up a screw, I would definitely have a floor sweep somewhere inside the shop. I might still add one anyway. I've seen that you can just put magnets or whatever else right in front of the sweep. The problem is that if you just have like a sweep like down on the floor, you sweep like all your sawdust in there, but you have screws and metal in there, that can get sucked up into your dust collector, which then goes through your propeller. If you have a separator, it's not really too much of a situation because the screw will fall into the separator before it hits your impeller. But I've also seen people put like magnets and stuff right there at the sweep to kind of keep it from getting sucked up. So in the future, because my floors do need some more love, and I'm tired of sweeping. All right, yeah, I got 3 more of these to do, and then styles. Mm. Mm. I wish I had already shortened my planer cart. It'll make it a lot easier to run all my styles through my table saw, so I wouldn't have to balance such a long board. But since I've dropped down my table saw, the planer cart is too tall to be used as infeed for the table saw. I'm gonna be stuck balancing 7 foot long boards. I might go buy me a roller stand tomorrow just to make doing that part a lot easier. All right. I definitely gotta rip some of these styles tonight. I don't think my table saw can do it all in one go. It'll probably get hot again. So I definitely want to rip like at least half of these tonight So I know I can do the other half tomorrow, which will have again all the door frame stuff ready for me to do the panels tomorrow. Friday, Saturday, I should be able to start on the panels Sunday, and then I can attempt to put some doors together Sunday, Monday. Is the plan. I was supposed to be installing all these doors on Monday. I'm going to be calling the client probably tomorrow to tell him more than likely middle to the end of next week. So I want to be able to go ahead and route in all the mortise locks here at the shop versus I have a piece of sawdust right in my beard. Oh, nobody was going to tell me. Thank you. But yeah. Trying to see if I can stay semi on schedule. But again, once I send him some pictures, hopefully this weekend to Monday, he'll be happy enough that all the doors are done. And then I'll schedule the install probably like a week from then. I do have another project where a client wants me to go to Richmond. They just told me about it today. I don't know when I'm going to go do that. all the doors. Definitely feel like it's been a long time coming, but it's just satisfying to finally have these stacked up here. Again, one of my biggest concerns was like having space to build all these doors. When you look at 10 doors kind of stacked like that, doesn't really look like. All right. So now what I need to do is start ripping down these styles. And I'll put the camera over here. Really wish I had something set up for infeed. I don't. Actually, I need to switch over the dust collector, dust extractor to the table saw. And also I need to see if she's full again. I need to clean out this bucket again, and then I'll switch it over to the table saw. I do actually have 2 stools inside of the shop. I use them whenever I'm physically like at the bench working, like sanding or something like that. But I can't really. It's not safe to sit at one at the table saw. Well, you know what? There are blind and handicapped woodworkers who do sit down at the table saw. I just don't feel confident in that. I don't know. Maybe I never tried it. Never tried it. But yeah, when I'm sanding or assembling stuff at the bench, if I'm going to be at the bench for a while, I will grab up my spool. Alright, set to the table saw. What are these overall? 5 3/4, 5 1/2, 5 1/2, 5 3/4. Six, 7, 8. Don't know if the table saw would get through all these, but I will attempt to try to rip down enough for me to do 5 doors. plan to actually upgrade this saw to 240 strictly because of this. When she gets hot, the breaker on the motor trips, and I have to wait for it to cool off before it lets me actually reset it. And I hadn't ripped any of these to the final widths, so I could run it through the router. I was really hoping to be able to show you guys a door kind of test fit together, but I would need to be able to rip these. I could grab my other table saw out the truck, but currently how my benches are set up with all that wood stack right there, I would have to move all of this. I would have to move all that so I can put my table saw over here. But to have the end feet to run these longer boards, I have to move that whole entire stack that I just stacked up. My goal was to go, because again, right now we don't have it ripped to the final 4 3/4. What we're doing was ripping off the last rough edge, and then we're going to flip it over and then go to our final widths. But with the saw calling it quits right now, that might be the end of the stream, unfortunately, because I can't go to the router table until I rip the other side. I had a feeling that I probably should just go ahead and do 2 or 3 and then run the router. I wanted to go on and get at least half of the style stack ripped down. And that was me being greedy. Definitely need to upgrade this to 240 though, so I can stop worrying about the motor getting hot. You can't even hit the reset button until after she cools down. Well, we got at least an hour and a half in tonight. I think that might be where we call it. Strictly because my saw was tired, I guess. Not because I was. But yeah. Got pretty far. All we have to do again is to rip the rest of this style material right there to the final widths, run them through the router table. And then today we have all of the rails coped out. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be able to test fit a couple doors. Thank you. That table saw back there is really pissing me off. And again, I have my second table saw. It's battery power. It's the Flex one. I know it actually has the oomph to run these boards through. I just don't feel like restacking all the wood back there so I can do so. So I think we're going to call it tonight. And then tomorrow we should be test fitting doors. And then unfortunately going back to the planer and jointer to get all of my panels situated for the actual doors. I got lucky. I think the panels, when I did the math, they're about 9 1/4, 10 inches give or take. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 1x12s, and I think these are like 11 and 12 feet long. The panels are like 20 inches, 21 inches. So I can get like 4 doors roughly without any glue ups. But then the rest of these all need to get glued up to make wide enough panels because we have like 1x6s when I need about 9 or 10 inches. So couldn't get but so lucky. But again, the first 4 doors are going to be easy because all I have to do is run these through the planer and get them flat to go into the coping stick joinery. So tomorrow / Saturday we'll probably be milling up panels and getting the full doors situated. And we have, how wide is this? How wide is this? It's a 3/8. So we have 3/8 inch panels. So I'm gonna turn a bunch of these 1x4s into sawdust, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the game plan. This is the proof of what we've been doing for the last few days, and we're getting there. Pretty soon, I'll have 10 doors all slapped together and ready to be installed in this client's house. But if you guys have enjoyed, please smash that like button, leave me a comment, subscribe, check out my other channels. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.